Hello and welcome to our webinar today. This is Closing Delaware LLC or Corporation. I am Michael Kupfer with Harvard Business Services, and I'm joined by Michael Bell, the president of the company, who will be presenting to you in just a minute. A couple of things, as usual, to go over here at the top of the broadcast. First of all, we are recording, as we always do, so the session that you see today will be available to you to review if you miss anything or just want to go back and hear it again. You'll be getting that in an email tomorrow, probably around the same time of day, and that will be accompanied by a PDF version of the slides that we show you. So you'll have two different ways of viewing the information, and should be enough to help you review anything that you might have missed the first time. In addition to that, the presentation today should be fairly quick. I think we'll probably need about 20 or 30 minutes. And then we'll have some time for your questions at the end. So any questions that you think of along the way that you need clarification on, just chat them in using the chat feature right in the webinar. And some of them we might be able to answer on the fly, and the others that we will save until the end and make sure we get everything answered for you as best we can. And of course, we're always available after the webinar to answer questions then as well. So those are the main things. Let's just jump into a quick little bit of information about us. We're Harvard Business Services. We're founded in 1981 in Wilmington, Delaware by Rick Bell, who's pictured on the left side of that photo. And we're a family-owned and operated company. Mike Bell, who's going to be presenting in just a moment, was named the president of the company just almost a year ago, this past January. We are now headquartered in Lewis, Delaware, right on the coast. And we have formed over 180,000 companies, and we have over 80,000 current clients worldwide. So we are always ready, willing, and able to help people from all over the world with their Delaware company needs. We are a Delaware registered agent and formation specialist, very customer-focused company. We offer free lifetime support, low prices, and a very friendly staff. These last 2 points are important. We are not attorneys and we're not accountants, so we cannot offer you legal or accounting advice, and anything you hear in this webinar should not be considered legal or accounting advice. And we have no affiliation with Harvard University whatsoever, just a completely different entity from them. So with that, we can jump into the webinar. I'm going to turn things over to Mike, and like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to chat them in as we go.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael, for that introduction. As Michael said, my name is Mike Bell. I'm the president of Harvard Business Services. I've been working in the company now for almost 11 years, but in layman's terms, I've been working in it my whole life. This is a great topic for this time of year because there are a lot of people that are looking to close their books and things down before the end of the year. This will help cover everything that you need to know about properly closing your company down here in the state of Delaware through either utilizing our services or directly through the state of Delaware, whichever you prefer. Hopefully it answers all your questions. And if you do have any questions in the meantime while I'm presenting, please ask them, and I'll try to get to them as I'm presenting, or I'll get to them at the very end. This is not always something that we'd like to hear, but we do know that, people do have to close their company for one reason or another. So regardless of whether the closure was planned or unplanned, it is important to be aware of the correct procedures in order to protect the company and its stakeholders from extra expenses, liability, and conflict. So that's the main purpose of this webinar today, and these are the things that we'll be covering. We're going to cover what to consider before you close the company, procedures for different entity types, filing deadlines and franchise tax implications, using Harvard to close your company with the state of Delaware, and an alternative to a formal closing. So let's jump right into it. Here's what not to do. A lot of people just want to call us via phone and say, my company is closed. Okay, well, you just stating that your company is closed does not formally close your company with either Harvard Business Services or with the state of Delaware. We will send you the proper options if you do call us and state this information. We do not go based upon word of mouth that your company is closed. We do have to take a a proper way of going about it to either formally close your company or to resign as the registered agent. Another thing that people like to do is they contact us via their paperwork, or they state to us that they filed the proper documentation with the state of Delaware to close the company, but we never receive or see the filing reflected in the state's database, so we cannot assume your company is actually closed either with Harbor Business Services or with the state of Delaware. So it is very important to take the proper protocol to make sure that your company is closed down in one of these two ways. Okay, so things you want to think about before closing your company. If you have an LLC operating agreement or corporation bylaws, which every company should have a set of bylaws or operating agreement on file at all times internally with the company, it's going to state specifically how your Delaware company should be closed, including how many votes you need to close the company, how to handle any outstanding debts, how to liquidate assets, how to notify the appropriate parties involved. If you do not have this information incorporated into your operating agreement or corporation bylaws, I would suggest you seeking the assistance of an attorney to make sure that all of these things are incorporated into either one of these agreements or bylaws. That way, if there is ever a conflict, people will know properly how to go about closing the company. You're also going to want to speak to your attorney and your accountant to see if your company needs to file a final federal or state tax return, evaluate any unresolved contracts, loans, and obligations, and to close your business bank accounts and distributions of funds that may be left over to any of the members or shareholders of the company. So those are a great set of points to remember before you decide to close your company. All right, so as I stated before, you do need certain voting in different companies. So for an LLC, to initiate the company to close within the company, you need one of two ways. Either you need a unanimous or a majority vote. So the ownership must either vote unanimously to cancel the LLC, or if the LLC's operating agreement states that a particular percentage of LLC members can be in the agreement to cancel the LLC, a unanimous vote is not needed. You can vote by 2/3 of the ownership interest. So the Delaware LLC law allows the LLC members who collectively own more than 2/3 of the company to agree by vote to cancel the LLC. Whereas with a corporation dissolution, a decision to dissolve a corporation must be made by the board of directors. The board of directors are the ones who run the company, whereas the shareholders are the owners of the company. And so the board of directors and the shareholders are going to get together in accordance with the corporate bylaws. And then to start this process, you must have a meeting with both of them and pass a resolution to dissolve the company. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about the proper way of going about it and how many votes you need and things of that nature, the next thing that's very important is the timing matters of when you are going to close your company. Because the franchise tax in the state of Delaware, it has a lot to do with it. And so as I'm going to explain here. So once you've decided to formally close your company, and the appropriate parties have approved it, the filing of your certificate of cancellation for an LLC or certificate of dissolution for a corporation must be completed on or before December 31st of the current calendar year. Why is that? Because if you even exist for one day in 2020, the state of Delaware is going to impose the next year's franchise tax, which is 2020, and you will be subject to pay that as well. So if you don't want any more franchise tax issued to the company, you need to close it before December 31st. So an example of that was You close your LLC on January 3rd, 2020. Now you have to pay your $300 franchise tax for 2019 as well as your $300 franchise tax for 2020. So as you can see, it goes up, rapidly if you don't do it before December 31st. The other thing that you need to know about this is the reason the timing matters is because this process does take approximately 3 to 5 days to complete as long as you get the signed document back to us. And we do have to, when we get closer to the deadline, we do have to charge an additional expediting fee to make sure that it gets done quickly. So it is really important that you call us well before either our Christmas holiday or in early December, but calling us after our Christmas holiday is going to cause us to have to rapidly get it done, and there will be additional fees associated with getting that done to make sure that it's done before the end of the year. So go ahead and call us today for a quote, and we'll be happy to get that to you and take care of the paperwork. But can't stress it enough that closing it must be done before January 1st and must be done on December 31st. All right, so as I said, we do offer assistance to help provide an accurate quote for both the dissolution or cancellation fee for the state of Delaware, along with what your franchise tax is to formally cancel your company. So you just need to simply contact us by phone, live chat, email, or Skype, or you can contact us in other ways as well to close your company. Once we receive your payment, we will prepare and forward the proper document via email for signature by an authorized person for the LLC or an officer for the corporation. You will then need to sign that document and then send it back to our office via scanned email. The state of Delaware allows for conformed signature, so an email copy is just as good as the hard copy. And then once we receive that, we will file the proper documentation with the state of Delaware. And this entire process does take 3 to 5 business days. Once we do have a copy of it, or we get the official document back from the state of Delaware, we're going to provide that to you for your records, so you can provide it to any necessary parties that require showing that you have closed your business. Okay, so as I spoke about, there is a formal way of closing your company, and then there's an informal way of closing your company, which is also known as an inactive status. So there's 2 options. So the first option, as we spoke about, is filing a formal dissolution or cancellation, and that's filing the proper documentation with the state of Delaware. The other option is if you don't need to formally dissolve or cancel your LLC, would be to have your registered agent resign on the entity, putting the company into an inactive forfeited status with the state of Delaware. The process typically takes about 60 days to complete this process, and then it does not occur right away, and it is not the same as having filed a formal cancellation or dissolution. So if you have us resign as a registered agent and you think that's formally closing the company, it's not formally closing the company, it's just you're basically letting the company go. All right, so the way the registered agent resignation process works is when your registered agent resigns, your company enters into a forfeit status with the state. A resignation can occur in one of 2 ways. It can occur by the authorized person in the company requesting the registered agent to resign, or the registered agent is forced to resign on its own for the annual service fee not being paid in a reasonable amount of time. The registered agent must allow the company 30 days after notifying it that it will be resigning before submitting the resignation to the state. The state then provides the company an additional 30 days to appoint a new registered agent or reinstate the original agent. Only at the end of this process is the resignation official and the company considered to be in a forfeit status. So as you can see by this slide, it is a longer process to go through the registered agent resignation versus formally filing a dissolution with the state of Delaware, which takes approximately 3 to 5 business days. So it is important to understand the difference between the registered agent resignation and the formal dissolution. So the things that you need to consider when requesting the registered agent to resign is that the company is still going to be responsible to pay any franchise tax every year in which it is in operation, regardless of whether it has any income or not. So if your company does not pay the annual franchise tax, the state imposes a late fee plus interest for every month it is not paid. In addition, if you decide to have the registered agent resign and later decide to revive the company, meaning bring the company back into good standing, you are going to be responsible to pay any past due franchise tax, including penalties and interest. You may also face other difficulties in reviving the company later on, such as the company name is no longer available. So it is important to weigh the two options that we provide to you because, when you formally just let the company go, it does have its benefits and it does have its disadvantages. So just some things to keep in mind if you decide to go that route. But later on, you need to bring the company back into good standing. It does cost a lot more to revive a company than it does to form and file a brand new company or to dissolve a company. So let's say you've decided to dissolve a company or you've let a company lapse and let the registered agent resign, or you paid the registered agent to resign. Does that mean that you are not allowed to file another company? Does it mean that you are going to be subject to paying any franchise tax for those other companies? No, the state of Delaware has no regulation on that. You can file as many companies here in the state of Delaware, whether you've dissolved them or the registered agent has resigned, because none of your information is available for public record. So the process is handled in any of these conditions, and we're happy to go over this with you in detail over the phone, and you will find that none of your franchise tax for any past companies transfers to the registered agent or the other company or the new company, and it does not affect another company started by the same founder. So it does not stop your ability from continuing to file new companies here in the state of Delaware. All right, so that's basically our presentation today. I hope it provided the information that you need to know for formally closing your company. We felt this was a good topic because we're getting closer to the end of the year now, and people are definitely considering this now. So there are a number of reasons why you should consider Harvard Business Services. We have an A+ rating on the BBB. We have an excellent reviews on Trustpilot, and we've named the other reasons along with our $50 a year Delaware registered agent fee. So there are a lot of reasons to consider Harvard Business Services, and I thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to help answer any questions after Mike finishes up here.
Thank you, Mike. And just to further the point about reaching out to us, there's many ways to get in touch with us. We've recently added WhatsApp to our mix of channels that we're available on. So any of these methods are great for contacting us and just kind of initiating the process And I just really want to reinforce that, with the end of the year coming up and the additional taxes that you'd have to pay if the company remains open past the end of the year, this is something that you should act on while it's fresh in your mind. It's easy to forget about it, and then suddenly it's too late. So do reach out to us, ask us any questions you might have, and we're happy to help you get this done in time for the end of the year. And with that being said, one more thing. If you are not already subscribed to our blog, which I know many of the folks listening in today are, it's real easy to sign up for it. We send out one weekly email that has some fresh blog posts, new content, new news that's coming out about Delaware companies and just businesses in general. We don't spam you. We don't sell or share your information. So it's a real low-stress thing. You just sign up, you get your one weekly email, and that's it. So we encourage you to do that if you'd like some more information on us. And with that being said, if you have any questions, go ahead and send them in. We've got a couple to get to already, so if we don't get any more, we can just take the two and then wrap it up after that. But Mike, we did get a question from the audience. Someone was asking about the process for closing an EIN number when you're closing the company.
Yeah, so that's another great point and great question with regards to the company. So you can, provide the certificate of dissolution or cancellation to the IRS, and you typically will do that when you file your federal income taxes or things of that nature. But with regards to the EIN number will always remain active. It never dies. So even though that company is formally dissolved, the tax ID number still is around. But if you file the proper paperwork with the IRS and the federal government, then they will know that your company is closed, but your EIN number will never close.
All right, great. And there is some more information on our website for anyone who needs more on that. There's a blog post called "An EIN Number Never Dies," and you can get some additional information there on that topic. But one other question, Mike, we did talk about how you can't wait until the very last day to do this because it takes some time to process. So how much time would you recommend that somebody take from starting the process to make sure that it's closed and complete by the end of the year?
I would start as soon as possible. I mean, even though I know people have a lot of busy schedules, I would start the process as early as possible. So, you could even start it, now, but the latest I would get started is probably the second week in December.
Okay, great. And we did get a couple more questions that just came in, so let's see if we can get to those. If a registered agent resigns, how is it possible to owe additional monies? Please elaborate.
Okay, so even if the registered agent resigns, the company's going to go into an inactive forfeited status. But the state of Delaware, even though that company has not been formally dissolved with the state of Delaware, the state of Delaware is still going to calculate the franchise tax year after year. So a company in the state of Delaware for a corporation does not officially go void with the state until you have not paid the franchise tax for 2 consecutive years. Whereas with an LLC, your company does not officially go void in the state of Delaware for 3 consecutive years of not paying the franchise tax. So even though we've resigned, the state of Delaware is still going to calculate that franchise tax until they formally void the company with the state of Delaware based upon that franchise tax.
Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. If not, let us know and we can try to get you some additional info there. And then the last question that we have right now is, do you provide guidance on what needs to be done to close in another state, for example, a Delaware company operating in Pennsylvania?
We can certainly help assist you with that. We're not experts in every state outside of Delaware. So If you do need to file so if you are a Delaware company and you filed as a foreign entity in the state of Delaware or in the state of Pennsylvania, we can certainly help assist you with that process as well. But if it's not a Delaware company and you're domiciled in the state of Pennsylvania, then we can't help with that aspect. But if it's a Delaware company with foreign entity status in Pennsylvania, we can certainly provide you information on that.
All right, great. Well, thank you all for joining us today and for your questions. Hopefully we got everything answered and you're all ready to go. And once again, just remember to get the process started so you have enough time to get it completed before the end of the year. Reach out to us if we can help you any further, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.